for I walk in this world. Good morning. Well, here we are on a Wednesday morning, and we have been pursuing this week the idea of blessing, what it means to give a blessing or to receive a blessing. We've been looking at it in different aspects this week. On Monday, we talked about how God blesses us, and that is indeed the overwhelming context here, because God blesses us in so many ways. Most of the time, I think we don't even recognize it. But God indeed blesses us so much. And so on Monday, we talked about God's blessing on us. And then yesterday, on Tuesday, we talked about how we bless God with our praise and our adoration. It's a different twist on giving a blessing, because we usually don't think of ourselves able to bless God, but that's exactly what we are to do. And we read Psalm 103 that talked about how we are to bless God with our praise and our adoration. So today, we're going to talk about blessing one another. In Genesis, we see a very interesting story. And it's one of these stories that I would guess that you have been as puzzled at as I have been. We see the story about how Isaac was intending to bless his son Esau, but in an act of deception, he was tricked into giving that blessing to his other son Jacob. I've always wondered about this, because it seems to me, I'm sure it seems to most of us in our culture, that once that deception was understood, that he could simply take it back and restore that blessing to the son on whom he was supposed to be giving it in the first place. Didn't seem to me to be a big correction, but that's not what happened. He didn't do that. A father's blessing on a son in the context of the culture of the Old Testament was so substantial, so irrevocable, that it could not be changed. The puzzle is still in my mind about that. I still don't quite understand it. But at the very least, it does point out how important the giving of a blessing can be. For us to give our blessing to someone else is a strong statement about our spiritual desires for that person. So, as we read on, we get over into the book of Numbers. In Numbers 6:24, we see Aaron, the brother of Moses there, giving a blessing to the sons of Israel in probably the most famous blessing in the Bible. I'd have to stop and think about that, but I think this may be the most well-known blessing that is given from one person to other people in the whole of Scripture, because it is there that Aaron says to them, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." What a beautiful blessing. Beautiful blessing given by someone who loves those beloved children. And so the idea is that we are able to give blessing. Our blessing to one another today does not have to be that eloquent, but we still have the opportunity to pass on to others the blessing of God's good for them. There is a word that I think may summarize this idea, and it's not a word that is contained in Scripture, but I think it is an idea that holds this idea of us giving a blessing to each other, and the word is Godspeed. It literally means to travel safely or to prosper on your journey. It's interesting, in the first dictionary that I looked at, it made special effort to point out that this was not to be connected to a religious term, but in other dictionaries we see quite the opposite, actually, The idea is that this is a spiritual blessing, and while the original idea was to mean to travel safely, to prosper on your journey, spiritually, it has an easy application for us. When we bless others, we are wishing them Godspeed. We're connecting them to the very presence of God and His care for them. That's what a blessing is. Connecting others to God and His care for them. It isn't a physical journey that we're thinking about, but the spiritual journey that each of us makes every day as we go through life. So in that light, nothing could be more appropriate than for a man or woman of God to remind others of the presence of God and His care for them by giving them a blessing. A blessing I give to you. Therefore, I would encourage all of us today to think about this, to think about those around us on whom we can give a blessing. I've got to credit my wife in strong respect here, because she has on Facebook for a long time given others a blessing. She's connecting them with God and His care for them. And therefore, I want to urge you today to go out and give a blessing to others, as I give to you at this very time. I'm so grateful to those of you who are watching these daily messages, and therefore I want to give you this day the blessing of God. I want to wish you this day Godspeed, and let this be a part of your journey. Bye.
They resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart words of life, words of hope.